Hi, Adam. Welcome to the Benefit Whisper, where we decode the nonsense of today's healthcare system. It's gotten so expensive, so complicated, but no added value. We're going to whisper the truth to those people that want real solutions. I'm Ralph Weber. I'm the host of the Benefit Whisper, and I'm joined today by a very, very knowledgeable person in this space. He's been on the front lines of the fight for better benefits for years, for decades. Adam Russo, Esquire. We're talking reference-based pricing today, what it really is, where it's misunderstood, why it's a smarter path forward. Why don't you start by telling the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, first, I want to say thank you, Ralph. We've been friends for a long time, known Ralph for decades, it seems.
Yes.
But everything you said is correct, right? I mean, it's a wild world out there. For some reason, unlike everything else that people do, healthcare, health insurance, going to a doctor, all this whole world, people just can't seem to figure it out. And there's so many different areas of our industry that are almost polarizing each other because everyone's in it for themselves.
Absolutely.
But folks, my name is Adam Russo. I'm just glad to be here. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Phia Group, which is a company that I started in my mother's basement 25 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, true story. I started with $4,000. Quarter century. And unlike a lot of people, Ralph, I didn't buy my way to becoming bigger. It was all organic, one self-funded plan at a time.
Outstanding.
And today it's over 20 million lives that we represent.
Wow.
On everything from designing their health plan to reference-based pricing, subrogation, fiduciary concerns, whether to pay a claim or not, stop loss issues. Basically, if it's in self-funding, we got expertise. And I'm proud to say that we've been doing it for a quarter century, and extremely proud to say that we have a bunch of folks on our team that are subject matter experts in all things ERISA and in finding ways to reduce the overall cost of healthcare while increasing quality outcomes at the same time.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on a quarter of a century of progress, amazing progress. And I know that reference-based pricing is just one little piece of what you do. You do so much more, and I'd love to have you back in the future to talk about some other things. But today, let's start by, in your own words, what is reference-based pricing and why is it such a disruptor in the industry? And why does everybody seem to be so addicted to PPO discounts?
Listen, even the phrase reference-based pricing, if I ask 10 people what it is, I'm going to get probably 10 different answers. Depends on who you ask. Because all it is, it's just a different way of paying something, right? I'm going to pay XYZ based on some type of reference point that I'm going to utilize. And based on that reference point, I'm either going to pay more than that, less than that, or whatever that is. What's happened up until now is, as you mentioned, PPO discounts. And my favorite statement is when I hear from a broker, let's say, well, we're getting really good discounts. And I said, from what? Nobody knows what the actual charges are ahead of time. So again, a very simple example. If I have $1,000 bill and I have a 75% discount, that means I'm paying $250. But if the bill is $250 and I get a 10% discount, I'm paying $225. The 10% discount is actually better than the 50% discount.
Exactly.
That just took us 30 seconds to decipher. Yet 95% of the brokers in our industry, as long as they see a great discount, they're walking into that room, that enrollment meeting. We just secured the best discounts that anyone could get. Okay, from where? These facilities. Are they good? I don't know. No quality numbers, no quality metrics. What are they charging? Are they charging more than everybody else? I mean, that's the point. At the end of the day, what matters is what your net payment actually is.
Exactly.
That's what matters.
Absolutely.
And the reason why we have seen, you mentioned networks and how, even though every year prices, premiums, deductibles just go up and up and up, you made a point as to, why has there been this appetite or addiction to networks and network discounts? There's one reason. It's a very simple answer. And the reason is laziness. Pure, utter laziness. Anything else, all the stuff that we're talking about, reference-based pricing, direct contracting, right? Transparency on pricing and quality. It all is hard. It takes effort. There's training, there's education, there's workshops, there's plan design changes. There's got to find the right vendors.
Right.
With the network, you set it and forget it. And if you're a broker, and we all know, right? I'm not picking on brokers, Ralph, but we all know brokers, especially in the employee benefits world, control everything.
Yes.
You can have a company with 1,000 employees, but if they're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to their broker, they're assuming, based on their fiduciary duty, that they've met every reasonable standard. We hired a broker. The broker gave us 5 different options. We got 5 quotes, and this is the best of the 5. The broker did their job. And I would say to you, Ralph, and your listeners, they're not doing their job. That's the point. Is
Right.
it's fundamental changes. We're starting to see it, but the answer to that question very simply is pure laziness.
And Adam, I think you hit on a key area. It's very complicated. There's a lot more moving parts. And in order to service a client that's reference based pricing, you need more vendors. So your actual fees go up while your costs go down. We have one client that I was telling you about just before the start of this. We have reduced and they have large families, 3.4, what we call the conversion factor. So each employee has 2.4 dependents. Okay, so that's big. Average age is about 48. So that's kind of on the high end. Yet despite that, 3 years in a row, we have dropped their pricing. They're now 39% under the national average, as as Milliman publishes it.
And that's amazing, Ralph. And I can tell you, sadly, I don't hear those stories from anybody.
Yeah,
Folks, that
well,
is an anomaly. That your rates are going down without lessening their benefits.
Right.
If anything, they probably have better benefits.
Absolutely, they do. $500 deductible. And everything else is copays. It's amazing.
Unheard of.
Well, thank you. So, Adam, you've been in this space for years. What was the moment that convinced you that RBP isn't just a good idea, but it's necessary to contain this big monster of healthcare?
I would tell you it was probably about 15 years ago when so as you can imagine, I started building a company. I never had a broker, right? I was my own broker, I guess, even though I'm not a broker, but I know enough about insurance to act like one, I guess. And what I realized is as we were building these plan documents, right? We're writing plan documents for the same plan year after year after year. And there are now, tens of thousands of plans that we write their plans. And we noticed in the schedule of benefits every year, we do a tracker, what the benefits were the year before, year after, year after, year after that. And it's, as you mentioned, deductibles going up, copays, huge jumps in copays, benefit coverage, benefit coverage as time goes on, and premiums. 20% increases, 25% increases, stop loss being lasered. You name it. And I sat there and said, what fundamentally has to happen to change this paradigm shift? We can't keep going down this route forever. And this was even before Obamacare. And I sat there and said, there has to be a better way of paying claims. There must be. And we started looking and realized that there were some vendors out there that, had some, early on software in regards to how they price claims. And they were trying to do some direct contracts, trying to use, Medicare multiples, et cetera. And I go, if we could get this to be a transparent process where you have great pricing references, what's Medicare reimbursing, what's Medicaid reimbursing, and which no one talks about now much, is including quality aspects to it.
Right.
So the quality of the service you're going to get for the money you're going to get. I said to myself, what's holding us back from moving in that direction? If you are a large employer in a town, why wouldn't the CEO, who's already golfing with the CEO of the hospital,
right?
He's the CEO of the biggest manufacturing plant in town. Why go through a broker to then go through a insurance company whose access then you get to a network before you have a deal on how much your people are going to pay when they go to that hospital? Why wouldn't you just pick up the phone or meet with the CEO of the hospital and say, hey, listen, I got 2,000 employees. Right now, my employees have a $5,000 deductible and they have a $50, let's say a $250 copay, inpatient, whatever it might be. How about, in order for me to give you steerage, so I'm going to send people your way, let's waive the deductible. I'll make a deal that I'll pay you the entire bill, no deductible, no copay. So now, how does the hospital benefit? Do you realize, Ralph, that hospitals collect maybe 10% from people within their billing department for the copays, deductibles, et cetera? They can't collect that money.
10% of the employee portion or of the whole thing?
Employee portion. So they're having a tough time collecting those funds from the employee. I go, why don't you just call the guy and say, there is no deductible. There is no cost share. You don't have to worry about chasing the members for money. I'm going to pay you a fair rate. Instead of having to wait 30 days for payment, I'll pay you in a week. I'll pay you the same day. And let's make a deal at, let's say, Medicare, which what you're getting right now from Medicare patients. I'll give you 50% on top of that, which is still 250 percentage points lower than what they're paying with the network. You don't have to pay the network access fee. And now you actually have a partner. You're working with the facility and you go, okay, what else can we do together? Are there other services, other procedures that you offer or your sister hospital offers, etc.? And that came to me and I said, why aren't people doing this? Because one, it's work. Two, what about if people aren't going to that facility? What about every other claim? How in the world am I going to do direct contracts with every facility, every specialist, etc.? That is network building,
Right.
pretty much.
Absolutely.
And I said, why couldn't we do that? Why couldn't the industry do that? What's holding us back? And it's the obvious stuff. It's the balance billing scares. It's the tactics. And people don't know this. People aren't aware of the fact that I've been on plenty of calls like this where there'll be a member on the phone. I can see her. She has no hair, going through chemo. And they're telling her, the hospital is telling her that she can't come back in for treatment until her bills are resolved. Not giving people access to the care until there's some deal made. And those are the main reasons why RBP, reference-based pricing, just didn't spread like wildfire.
Right.
However, there's no question. We're seeing municipalities now, counties now, where at least they're saying, okay, here's your network option, here's your PPO option, but we have this other option too. It's called reference-based pricing. And Ralph, you know as well as I do, the quotes for the premium, it's half or a third of what it would be on the network. So what happens every time? Let's say there's 1,000 people on the plan. All 1,000 were on the network one. Well, the network one just went up by 10% again. It's renewal season. You can go 10% up, or we get this new option, and it's going to cost you 1/3 of what you've been paying. In the first year, maybe 10% of the people sign up. Then it's 20, then it's 30, then it's 40. And eventually you get to a point where a majority of the people have forgotten about the network option and have realized that I have better care because you actually have access to quality metrics. I have less out of pocket. Every family, that helps every family out. And the plan is a healthier plan overall, both physically, mentally, and economically in their pockets. But again, why isn't everyone doing it? Why isn't every broker pushing it? In certain parts of the country, it's very well known. There are still parts of this country where brokers don't even know what reference-based pricing is. And to me, with all the new technology, with AI, having transparency, having the ability for people right on their phone to know, just like they do when they're getting an Uber, oh, what are the 5 hospitals that specialize in XYZ near my home? How far away? Within 10 miles. Here are the facilities. Here's what the price is going to be. Here's what your out-of-pocket is. Oh, by the way, here's their quality numbers as it relates to this procedure. And it's right there in front of your face versus the world we live in now where because of no steerage clauses,
Right.
every network contract, go to your network and try to find out of 5 hospitals in the network that are within 10 miles of your home, which one's better or worse for certain procedures. Good luck.
Exactly. And usually it's the higher priced ones that are lower in quality. Isn't that right?
And
You were
why?
saying you made this point 2 weeks ago, and I love the way you said it. Tell us why the lesser quality care is more expensive.
So it goes back to that story about Payless, right? Payless shoe stores, you can actually Google it. I think it was on Nightline or ABC. I'm not sure what channel it was, but they did Payless took their shoes, which everyone knows are like, very cheap discount shoes, $20, $30 a pair. And they made a small boutique store and they called it Palessi, Palessi.
Wow.
They hired really good looking Italian models, male and female, dressed them up in all black, and took their $20 shoes and changed the prices to $700. They sold out.
Really?
And when reporters asked the people afterwards, where they explain, oh, by the way, why'd you buy this shoe? Well, obviously the quality and the care, right? The workmanship, the craftsmanship. And then the reporter tells them, these are $25 shoes from Payless. No way. And they go, why'd you assume the quality was so high? Because of the price. So it's exactly what you said. When people see a $100,000 car, brand new off the lot, they're assuming, without reading any reviews, without going on Consumer Reports, whatever, or Car and Driver, they're assuming what? $100,000 car, $1,000 car has better quality than a $25,000 car. And that's the way it is pretty much in every aspect of our economy, except
Except
when it comes to
healthcare.
taking care of your body.
Exactly. And Adam, isn't it also true that the hospitals that have a lot of mistakes have to redo it once, twice, three, four
And
times? So
they
you have to
charge
build
you
that
for it.
in. Yeah.
Well, you know what? It'd be great as an attorney. I would love that it was common practice in my job. Let's just say I'm doing I'm a real estate lawyer and I'm doing a closing and I have to file the deed with the registry or whatever, right? The
Right.
registry of deeds. And I messed up. I filed the wrong deed at the wrong county, or I put the wrong names in. I put the wrong address in. Imagine me calling my customer back, you, Ralph, and going, hey, Ralph, just so you know, I got to do all that again. And then you have to pay me again.
Wow. Yeah. Nobody does that except in healthcare, right?
Except in our business.
You know, and my wife's a doctor. She's been a doctor for 30 years, and she'll tell you that she can do something today that fresh out of medical school might have taken her an hour and a half. She can do it in 10 minutes.
Right. Oh, how about even the new technology? How crazy it is when, now that we at my company have all this access to all this quality metrics, acuity rates, readmission rates, complication rates, infection rates, all this stuff. You actually can, and the craziest part was when I saw knee replacement surgery.
Right.
There are doctors, there are surgeons who have been doing it for 30 years and they're known as the best, right?
Yes.
Yet they're not using the latest, most innovative technology. They're still doing stuff that maybe was big tech 5-10 years ago. And now other doctors, other facilities are using newer techniques, less invasive. I have seen situations where a person, let's say the price was the same. Let's say this surgery here is $50,000 at this hospital, same, another hospital, it's also 50. But at hospital A, you have 3 months of rehabilitation. Hospital B, your rehabilitation is 1 week because they're not doing the same type of incisions. So you realize that every time you go back to the hospital for rehab, that's another claim.
Exactly. Yes. Good
You're missing
point.
work. You're not going to the office. You're not playing with your kids. You're stuck on a couch. Oh, and now you've gained 20 pounds, Ralph, because you've been sitting around. These are true things that are happening all across our country where people aren't using the latest techniques, the latest care. And the reason all this is happening is because our country, when it comes to healthcare and health insurance and healthcare choices, does not view it as consumerism.
Of course.
Every other thing you buy, the headphones that we're wearing, the speaker, you go on Amazon, get a price, get quality metrics, get reviews, how fast can I get it, etc. Where was it manufactured? How was it made? In every aspect of our life, when it comes to purchasing things, we have all this information available, except when it comes to taking care of your own body.
Right.
And people will say to me all the time, well, Adam, healthcare is different. It's personal. I'm like, wait, what? So buying a gift for my mom for Mother's Day, that's not personal, right? Oh, somehow it's not personal. But I'll tell people the only time, think about it, Ralph, how often, what percentage of claims overall are emergency, where you don't have time to research?
Maybe 4%? 4%?
Exactly.
Yep.
So 4% of the time, the ambulance is taking you to the closest facility. You don't know the price, you don't know the quality, but it's the closest facility. 4% of the time.
That and that leads me to another question. Most brokers that, Adam, when I hear somebody's doing an RFP, that RFP was usually written up by the current broker, and it's often one of the big 4 or 5. Okay. They want to keep their territory. So they put the scare in the clients about balance billing. Okay. So why is that such a scary phrase? And is it really overblown?
So I'll tell you this, the answer of whether it's overblown or not, I think it's extremely overblown, my personal opinion. But there's a reason that you keep hearing balance billing. Again, going back to my first answer, easy. To be able to tell people, well, you don't want to do reference-based pricing because of balance bills. Now, what's a balance bill? It's when a person gets a bill in the mail to pay the balance, right? So $100,000 bill, your health plan said $20,000 is a fair number. They're getting balance bill for $80,000, the patient is. Historically in this country, members have nobody protecting them on balance bills. You go to a courtroom, if you ever step inside of a courtroom and you'll realize all the default judgments, you'll have a lawyer representing a hospital, you have 100 defendants, not one of which shows up to court. And it's just default judgment after another. against the patient to pay the full bill. So I would advise that we see balance billing less than 2% on all claims that have reference-based pricing in them.
2% of all claims.
Max
Wow.
is that I've seen. Now, what we do versus what the rest of the industry does. Now, think about it. I'm gonna do some math here. So anyone here that doesn't know math, pull out a calculator. I have a $100,000 bill. Okay, I know that the networks on that bill, let's just say, would pay $75,000. You got 25% discount. Medicare or Medicaid, let's say, would pay. I'm making it really simple. $50,000. Let's just say. All right. So Medicare pay 50. 75 is from a regular insurance company like Blue Cross or whoever. So what can you do if I am a vendor that is pushing reference-based pricing, but I don't want noise? How much is the sweet spot? You're gonna have to pay more than 50, but you also want to pay less than the 75. So let's say 65. They have learned through the algorithms how much to pay before we get any noise at all. 65. So they could say to people, and that's why it's important what vendor you use, because they could tell people you're doing reference-based pricing, but you're only actually saving $10,000 on this particular bill, as an example, but no noise. How do we do it? We'll say, okay, network pays 75. The Medicare plan will pay 50. We're going to pay $55,000 more. Now, we know, though, that there's a greater chance of a balanced bill. So what have we done? The reason why I brought up the people going to court without a lawyer is I realized that if you call a billing department at a hospital, anyone can do this, and you get a balanced bill in the mail, you call them up. You can negotiate your bill. People don't realize that. You are able to negotiate your bill. Okay, so we contact the billing department, and we heard, well, you know what? If you don't pay us the 75 or the 100, we're going to take the patient to court. We're going to ruin the patient's credit. They're not going to be able to refinance the house, blah, blah, blah. The minute you say that the patient has a lawyer, the entire conversation changes.
Wow.
So what we did was we pay a small amount of money to a national law firm that will agree to represent any patient that gets balance billed regardless of the amount of money involved. The minute we tell a billing department that the patient has representation and that the attorneys are given all the ammunition from us that the amount of $55,000 is extremely fair, all of a sudden they're ready to make a deal, Ralph.
Right.
Every time. So there's a balance. You want to have a vendor in place or a program in place where you're paying less than the network rate, obviously. You don't have a lot of noise, obviously, but that the patient has their own protection, their own representation in case anything does fall through the cracks. Because the minute there's noise, the minute there's balance billing, especially for a municipality or a union plan or a school district, the minute somebody calls the local television or the local newspaper and they're doing a story about poor Miss Smith who got balance billed, they never blame the hospital. They never blame the facility asking, why are they charging so much money? They always blame the insurance company for not paying the entire bill. And that's another problem as to why you don't see reference-based pricing just be national and the normal way of doing business.
Right. Well, it makes so much sense. I mean, we talked about Maryland, where they pay 140% of Medicare all day long, but everybody pays the same, and that's a fair price. Everybody makes money. Nobody's gouging. Nobody's paying $19,000 for a CT scan or crazy, ridiculous prices like that. Adam, I did a study on the state of Tennessee health plan, 39,000 employees, 280,000 belly buttons years ago, $2.7 billion in billed charges. I saw a Variance CT scan. The median was $635. The high was $19,800. Colonoscopy, the median was $1,200. The high was $17,000. It's ridiculous. The variance. Nobody ever talks about the variance.
100% agreed. No one knows any of these things. And my favorite part is educating people, right? Even just regular lay people on the street. But the saddest part is, walk into any, my daughter needed to have, my daughter had a severely sprained ankle with a slight fracture. So we went obviously to see a specialist and they go, all right, Adam, we have to take her to that room or down the hall to get a boot fitting, Okay. I'm assuming, Ralph, and I'm a skier. I'm assuming when I go to get new skis, new boots, there's an actual fitting, right? They
Right.
measure, they do different things. Boy, was I wrong. I walk in with my 11-year-old daughter, and the guy goes, "What size shoe does she wear?" I'm like, "She's a 7." Just go right there, grab the 7. That's it. That was the fitting. Like, just
You're
take the.
kidding. And how much did they charge for that?
Here's the crazy part. So I'm trying not to say anything, Ralph. Right? I'm
Right.
trying to be a dad, not let my business mind get involved. And the guy on his own brought something up. He goes, "It was so sad." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "What?" He goes, "So often I'm telling people while he's putting this boot on my daughter that they're gonna have to pay for the boot out of their own pocket because they have a deductible." And he goes, "I wish I didn't have to do that." And I go, and now it opened the whole floodgate for me, right? I
Sure.
go, "So what are you charging for the boot and the fitting?" $150. I immediately went on my phone, went on Amazon, looked up the exact boot. I could see the brand, $40. Now, it's my daughter, though, Ralph. I'm not going to make
Of
her wait a
course.
day. I'm not
Sure.
going to make her wait 2 days. So then I went on Maps and I go, "What's the closest CVS, Walgreens, where I could buy the same brace, the same thing?" In the same exact lot, there was a Walgreens to have the same boot. It was $60 at Walgreens. So I told the guy, "Sorry, sir. Thank you. We're going to take our business elsewhere." And I took my daughter back to the car, drove up to the Walgreens, went out, got the boot in her size, put it on her. I don't have a deductible on my plan, Ralph, but
Right.
it wasn't the point. The point is, I asked the gentleman that works there, I go, "Did you ever tell people they could just go next door to Walgreens?" And he goes, "No, I can't do that." He's not allowed to tell people that. So he's telling families, people that work 3 jobs, people that work night shifts, people on minimum wage, he's telling them they're going to pay $250 to put a boot on, and not one time even crossed his mind to say, "You can just go to Walgreens and pay $60."
Wow. That's amazing. And you know
And
what?
that's just a little tiny
That's a
sliver
small,
of our healthcare problem. But you can use the same approach on pharmaceutical claims, branded versus generic. You can say the same thing about MRIs. MRIs are the biggest scam.
yeah,
I'm going.
absolutely.
How about urgent care? That's not even a real urgent care. It's fake urgent care that's billing as a emergency room. All these things are part of our problem. But until people treat their health experiences and their treatments and their surgeries and all this follow-up care they need, until they treat that the same way as they would buying a pair of underwear or food shopping. Like the woman, like, I'll be in line, right? And there's people that obviously are very good at coupon clipping, and they're very proud that they saved $300 on coupons, right? However, when it comes to healthcare and what they paid for an MRI, none of those, they're super psychotic when it comes to saving money on their groceries, but they wouldn't even cross their mind to save that money when it comes to a boot.
So education, I think you brought up education. That's a huge
Yep.
factor. How do we educate? I guess there are two sides of it: educating the employer or CFO or
Yep.
CHRO that's making the decision, and then educating the employee. How do we do that?
We spend, on average, in this country, the average employer spends 1 hour with employees, not even the dependents or the families, just the employee. It's an hour-long enrollment meeting. That's what is normally done.
1 hour
1 hour
per year.
per year.
And benefits is what? The second biggest line item for most employers.
I would say every employer pretty much. The highest is employee costs. So think about it. If someone's making 100 grand and they are getting a review process to get $10,000 more next year as a raise, a 10%
Okay.
raise would be a big raise.
Yeah.
10 grand. Think about the number of hours spent on that. The review, the biannual review, self-assessment, peer assessments, tests you got to take, certification, whatever, training in order to get 10,000 more. Yet that same employee should go out and spend $100,000 on a surgery when there's a higher quality, way lower cost procedure for 10,000. Seriously,
Yes.
that's a $90,000 difference. They spend 1 hour a year with that particular employee when it comes to health benefits. And I'll tell you why. Again, laziness. It's not the CFOs you got to convince. CFO sees the money. They see the savings. HR. So in addition to the broker not wanting to invest the time into finding other options that make more sense, you now have an HR department that's already busy. So now you're telling the HR department, wait, you have to spend more time on health benefits. You got to do quarterly training, workshops. How about just an email, Ralph? We spend probably 10 hours a quarter on educating employees about options. We'll tell people, hey, I know you saw that commercial on television about this particular drug. Here's what that drug costs. These are all the available generic options for that drug. Please try these first. It's a 5-minute email.
Exactly. But you brought a key point, Adam. HR. If I'm talking to an employer about reference-based pricing, CFO, CEO, they love it. HR, it's a change. It's scary. It's really scary. And often they are the ones that get in the way. Whether you're talking to HR about a new PBM, whether you're talking about reference-based pricing, even a new carrier, it's a change. And they tend not to like change.
They hate change. And again, why? It's potential noise. And that's why the key that I brought up at the beginning of our meeting, of our discussion, ensuring that that noise level is as low as possible or no noise at all to keep that goodwill. What I try to tell people all the time is give us 6 months. Give us 6 months to prove this product works, that this pricing methodology works. And what I would tell you, Ralph, is that one of the things we didn't answer or even question is what is reference-based pricing, right? It doesn't mean you have to change your entire plan. What I tell people is even with the most robust network, let's say you have Blue Cross, right? We have, by the way, my self-funded plan, we have Blue Cross Blue Shields in network, and then we do reference-based pricing out of network. Why? Because most of our in-network is physician claims.
Right.
And in my state, it is very, very competitive. We're paying physician claims just through the network, 130% of Medicare on average. So it's not like doing reference-based pricing at 140 or 130 would save us much money. Where we get killed is out of network claims, outside the network, right? The no surprises act claims. Like somebody in Massachusetts, somebody like me in Boston, who skis in Vermont on a 4,000-foot mountain. And I go to Montana and decide to try my skiing on a 15,000-foot mountain. It's different.
Right.
I get hurt. I go to the local hospital, emergency room, airlift, etc. The bill's $100,000. Every single company, every single person listening, at least on out-of-network claims, if you're using a wrap networks are like the dinosaurs. I don't see any use for wrap. I never did, but especially in today's world, wrap networks don't make any sense. You get smaller discounts and no transparency at all. What I tell people, if you want to have the first foray into reference-based pricing, at least try it on your out-of-network claims. Change the pricing mechanism on out-of-network claims to reference-based pricing. And when you see literally, Ralph, millions of dollars go down.
Wow.
You yourself, the employer themselves is going to say, all right, we did it for out-of-network. Can we do it on anything else? Dialysis carve-outs, different types of carve-outs are a perfect example of changing the pricing methodology. And you do it over a period of time, a couple of years. And then now when you come in with a full reference-based pricing option, it has a lot more energy and excitement behind it.
Sure.
Because people have seen the savings. Give you one example. A small city up in New Jersey, 500 employees. Their out-of-network utilization based on the network they have was 8% of their claims are out-of-network. We switched them. In the first year, they went from an average of 30% off bill charge to paying those claims at Medicare plus 150, I believe, roughly in that range. It was $20 million saved. 20
just
million
on out-of-network claims.
Out-of-network claims. Ralph, what you're going to hear from people is, well, our out-of-network claims are just 1%. Our out-of-network claims are just 2%, 3%. Well, you add up those percentages.
Sure.
If I have a 5% premium increase expected, and I can reduce that to 0, you've won.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Ralph, what percentage of employers do you think, Ralph, have, your situation, your example you brought up where it went down over 3 years?
3 years in a row.
Yep. Is unheard of. Congratulations. But if I told you that your rates would just not go up for 3 years, that would be a win. Huge win.
Of course. Healthcare inflation is what? 5, 6, 7, 8%.
Exactly. So the bottom line is I tell people, at least start with your out-of-network claims and then allow the process to proceed. But Ralph, here's the thing. No one looks at their claims data. No one is looking at the risks.
Exactly.
No one realizes that if you have 200 people on your plan, you're talking about 2 or 3 people that are actually causing the pricing.
Right.
It isn't everybody. It's a small subset of people. I'm not telling you to read any PHI. I'm just telling you, look at the claims that are causing you the biggest expenses, the most exposure, and then you'll realize a trend, we got to figure this out in regards to out-of-network utilization. We have to figure it out in regards to people utilizing emergency rooms when urgent care is the right approach in those situations. Hospital emergency rooms are utilized by so many people for the wrong reasons, on the wrong circumstances, And I think it's because they just don't know any better.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and you've already answered part of this, but what is the one thing you wish every CEO in America would understand about how they're overpaying for healthcare? And you've already touched into it. Anything to add to that?
I would tell every CEO, if you don't have a policy within your company to analyze the raw data on a quarterly basis, take it in an Excel spreadsheet, sort it by highest paid amount all the way down to the lowest. Identify what those procedures are. What was the situation? Was it an out of network situation? Using your example you brought up earlier is a great segue. The state of Maryland has some of the best, highest quality facilities in the nation, right? Johns Hopkins. If I tell the average person in, like, just say Kansas, that the price for their surgery at their regional little hospital in Kansas that they're going to pay is double what that same exact procedure would cost at Johns Hopkins, who would believe me?
Nobody would believe
Nobody.
that, Adam. Nobody.
And it's true. It's the
Exactly.
fact.
Yes,
Is,
exactly.
is that you're paying more money at crappier, sorry, I don't know if I can say that word,
Sure you can.
at crappier hospitals. You're paying more than on world's leading research facilities. The best of the world are paying less. You'll pay less at Mayo in many circumstances. It's inverse, but I try to explain to CEOs, spend as much time on your healthcare expense as you would on any other line item on the loss side of a P&L. Just spend a little bit
Exactly.
of time and you'll realize that your broker is probably not doing right by you.
I agree. So, Adam, what kind of innovations are you excited about that could make RBP even stronger? Like
AI.
AI, transparency, what do you think is going to make it even a stronger proposition?
There's no question that the advancements in AI over the past couple of years, I mean, even a year ago to now, and that's the key, right? What's the hardest part about reference-based pricing is how do we take all this data and make it manageable and meaningful to the everyday consumer, the everyday patient? AI is bringing us there. There's no question about that. On your phone, literally anytime, anywhere you are in the world, to be able to just use your tracker of where you are and within seconds be told the biography of the surgeons in that area, how good they are, what they charge, what they normally accept from different, and having all of that right there on your phone so that you have enough information and you're smart enough consumer. It's like imagine going to a car dealership and having no information at all in your back pocket about what the price of that car should really be.
Right.
Who would do that? Nobody. And that's what the future is going. Here's the only caveat. And it goes back to what you brought up earlier, Ralph, when you said people assume high price means high quality. The biggest problem I have with the Transparency Act, where hospitals have to price, be transparent about hospital
Sure.
pricing on their top 300 procedures. My concern is, and by the way, as we both know, less than 20% of hospitals have adhered to a 4-year-old law. Like, they still don't have price transparency. Maybe it's a good thing. Here's why. Let's say you and I are both competing hospitals.
Okay.
And we're both transparent on our price. You say that you charge $100,000 to deliver that baby, and I only charge 20. There's one member, right? He's standing in front of both of our hospitals. He can go left or he can go right. You're $100,000, I'm $20,000. His deductible is $5,000. Where's he going? Where is he or she going?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I made a video about this a while ago because we're out the same 5 grand and our perception is the 100 grand is more. That's where they're going to go. They're going to
Because
say, if I'm out the same,
it has to be a better
it's
hospital.
got to be.
It's got to have better beds, nice, comfy. The food's got to be better. The TV works, right?
Exactly.
You got your own room. And none of it's true. None of it's true. And
Yep.
that is ultimately the test, is that people, because they have no skin in the game above that 5 grand, I might as well go to the 100. Imagine if they have quality metrics at their fingertips and they'll know the place that has 20,000, my hospital, I do 100 babies a day. You do 2 babies a day.
Yes.
I have 100. I specialize in delivering babies. It's a rare thing once in a while.
Yeah.
What place are
Exactly.
you picking? You're going to come to mine.
Of course.
So we just need the public to be educated, to realize that how they choose their pediatrician, how they choose their doctor, their hospital, their surgeons, they do none of it in the same fashion as what car to buy or what TV to purchase. And I'm telling people, with the technology, the advancements in AI, these things are there at your fingertips. And once that happens, and once you see more engagement in it, I think that networks will just disappear. Eventually, it's going to be where whatever you want to call it, reference-based pricing or just pricing, different type of pricing. The minute we get to that point, we're going to see people truly feel empowered to have some say in the type of care they and their family receive.
Absolutely agree, Adam. Adam, it has been a pleasure as always talking to you. I can never get enough. I could listen to you all the time, every single day. I just love your energy, your
Tell my wife
enthusiasm.
that. Trust me, after a while, you get sick of it, Ralph. You'll want me to just sit there and be quiet.
So if people want to reach out to you, how can they contact you, Adam? And how can you help them?
Folks, hey, Ralph, by the way, thank you for the opportunity today to talk to your listeners. My company is the Phia Group. You can find us online at phiagroup.com. I'm also all over LinkedIn, social media, all the normal ones that you guys all know of, X, etc. Again, my name is Adam Russo, and I am the CEO and co-founder of the Phia Group. And if anyone is looking for ways, just want to talk about how can they reduce the cost of healthcare for their own plan, for their family, for their company, feel free to reach out to me via email, text, etc. It's all that information is available, as I said, and we'd be glad to assist you if possible.
Excellent. We'll have that in the show notes, a link on how to reach you. That's Phia, Phia. So, Adam, it's been great having you. For everybody listening, look, reference-based pricing is not magic. It's one of the smartest tools that we have out there today when it's used properly. I'm Ralph Weber, the Benefit Whisperer, and hey, if this conversation sparked something for you, please subscribe, like the episode, share it with somebody, drop a comment. If you want to reach out, you can reach me at ralph@thebenefitwhisper.com or call 832-924-3330. There will be more in the show notes about Adam. And Adam, thank you again so much for being here today.
Ralph, you're the best. Thank you, buddy. Take care.
Thanks, you too.